Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you today to kind of help you navigate these questions that I hear more and more every day about. Listen, we realize maybe we're on a software that's not supported. We want to make a change. We want something that's a little bit more modern with more features, but we just don't know where to start. And so we have these discovery calls all day. And um, these webinars that we've presented, this third in a series, is a result of us being asked the same questions all the time, and our responses with consulting with everyone about what you feel is important to your firm. Understanding the features that are in a product, um, and actually looking at the features, whether you choose to get a vendor, or excuse me, a software, a demo directly with the vendor, or you utilize a consultant to help you navigate those features. And then more importantly, probably the most important, is taking a look at the features and then ranking them. Like, what is an absolute must-have versus what is a nice to have, and what is a, you know what, that's there. And maybe that software, the foundation and the power is in that feature, but you don't need it. And so you may be paying for something that you don't need. So there's all of these things that you need to think about. So this webinar, what we want to do is kind of cherry pick some of the top 5 or 6 features that we feel firms should always take into consideration. Now, I'm also going to mention that, in the last couple of years, personally, I cannot remember the last time that I've installed software that lives on a server and is deployed out to workstations. So we'll call that premise or terrestrial software. It doesn't mean that there aren't viable options out there. There are, but the market is shifting towards cloud-based. So I have some screenshots all throughout this presentation, and they do come from some of our cloud vendors that we represent. But I just say that when you are starting your exploration of what are your options, you're probably going to be looking at cloud as the first option for several reasons. Easily accessible. You may now have remote workers. Law firms now are presented with the unique opportunity that they don't have to necessarily hire somebody in their geographic region, because remote accessibility allows you to cast a wider net and get the cream of the crop as somebody that works for your firm. And so cloud applications give you an even bigger tool to be able to get to that audience of more experienced workers and allow them to work at your firm. So just some things to think about. So one of the features that we feel is very important is a fully integrated software. And so what do we mean by that? So that is a general ledger and trust accounting. And so for those of you, maybe I'm just going to say this in probably a non-elegant way, but it's QuickBooks in your software. And so when you're looking at products, and I'll give you a perfect example. Clio has case management and billing and trust, but it doesn't have a general ledger, so where you track your law firm expenses. And so you have to then link with QuickBooks. This comment is not intended to say that that is not right for your firm, which is why you need to look at these options. But why do we like a fully integrated system? There's error reduction. So let's take a terrestrial example. We've got time slips. Does all the billing and it does trust accounting, but it doesn't do the bank reconciliations in your law firm. So we're running QuickBooks. And think about the duplicative data entry. So now we're spending time to enter data in 2 places. And what does that do? It opens up an error for missing. So if I wrote a check out of QuickBooks for a filing fee, I better remember to go back into time slips or product X and enter that expense so I can recover it back from my client. And so you're just opening yourself up to missing that data. It's also one less software that you have to learn when you have an integrated system. It's one less software that you have to maintain maintenance contracts and your payment for whatever it is, whether it's a monthly subscription or you pay one time each year. And it just consolidates everything into one system. So as I mentioned, I've got some screenshots. So this is, and I'll mention the name of the software. This is a cloud product, fully integrated billing and accounting and case management. And this is what I feel is probably one of the strongest features. It's an accounting home dashboard. So, these, you need to do your due diligence and make sure that a lot of these are controlled by security, which they will be. But imagine being able to come here and take a look at everything, your income, your expenses, but down at the bottom, you see those red those boxes about things that you need to do from an accounting transactional perspective. Like I have to print in my vendor section, I have to print 3 checks and I have 47 unpaid vendor bills. And this is an example when you click on those numbers, it drives you to the screen where you can review and do those data entries. And so as it's integrated with the client side, you've got the trust account. So you can see that I've got a trust to operating where I move money over at billing. So an integrated system is really our first choice when we're recommending a software for integrated billing and accounting along with the case management. And make sure that it's got a chart of accounts. So when you're looking at this feature, ask, can I customize this? Do you give me accounts out of the box? What can I do with this chart of accounts? You may have some parent sub-account presentations where you need to roll up, let's say insurance. I've got insurance and then I've got health insurance, professional liability insurance, workers' comp insurance. And so I need to have those posting accounts, but maybe when I look at my financials, I want to roll them up into one number. So what capabilities does the system have? And then further along the lines of the integration, this is just an example of a check screen. So this is Centerbase again, where I have a check that I'm writing out of my Frost banking account. And if you look at the bottom, I'm allocating it to my matter. So I'm affecting my bank balance, putting it in my financial statements, and I'm billing back my client. Again, no need to have redundancy of data entry in 2 systems. So another feature that we feel is very important is the automation of or the ability to do, we call it trust to general transfers. And so it's really prevalent in certain types of practice areas. So maybe in litigation or family law. So think about it. You take fees in from your client that go into the trust account, and you want to draw on them every month as you do a bill. Some systems are manual, especially in a system that's not fully integrated, where you have to do the bill and you note on it that you've moved this money, but then you have to go into your accounting program and actually move the money. Imagine the potential for error, especially with the trust account. Like if you don't get it right, your balances are off. And so you need to analyze, what do we have in our practice area and what can drive efficiency, that it's lather, rinse, repeat, and it's automating these steps for you. So here are just some examples. This is action step where when you're on a billing dashboard, you can easily see in your list of matters to be billed who has money in trust. And as an example, I have a matter that is set to automatically sweep money over, so it's even more important that on your matters that you have a feature that allows you to maybe not set it to be automatic, that you can control the transfer. So if you see that second row, I don't have it set to automatically sweep over. And so you want to actually control that transfer. But this is an example of where you see it. This is an example in Centerbase where you can set it to automatically or not do it automatically. And then this is an example of a bill presentation. Like, what does it look like to your client? Because we have to clearly convey that we use their money and how we're using it. And so it just allows you, when you have the ability to do this, that you don't have to maybe open up your invoice in Word and then type a line item, transferred money from trust. It just, the system supports it, and it allows you to present that information to your clients. And then again, going to now the accounting side of the entry, this is an example from Action Step, right? We're doing the bill and we're saying, look, I want to post that bill, and this screen kicks up. And now it's allowing me to do that accounting side. I can take the money out of trust and I can put it into operating. So it's just wrapping a nice bow around that whole workflow, that process of billing and integrated accounting. And this is an example from Centerbase, that when you do all your billing, all of these transfers queue up in a list, and it presents you with a list of everything that you did, and then you can select them here and then move them over into your operating. And so, a lot of firms will either print a check or they will just go online and make the transfer. So either system, you'll be able to see if it was an online transfer, if you needed to do it online. That total at the very bottom is what you're going to go online and transfer. So it's when you've got integrated trust with your billing, this is a very important feature that you need to explore with the vendor. So task-based billing. So I'm going to say that this is one of the commonly used terms is leads billing, UTBMS task codes, that's the litigation task code set. And it's usually, corporate clients or insurance defense firms where their clients require them to submit an invoice. It's not a paper invoice. It's more of an electronic data invoice. And so the system, if you have to do this, you understand very well how important it is that the system that you're using comes installed with the task codes that your clients require you to use. So this is just an example of the ABA list, right? But then more importantly is you need to have the flexibility to capture specific information for your case that embeds itself into that electronic invoice. So you can set on a matter, what task code is it? Is it bankruptcy task code? Is it litigation? And what electronic format does my supplier, my client, require me to upload? So it is some of these cloud-based systems, they all support Leads 98. Some of them allow you to create a variation on that, either from them or for you to do it. More, it's along the vendor working with you to maybe create a variation if you have a client-specific need that they need something a little different. But the takeaway is understanding that if this is a big part of your practice, you better get this right when you're looking for a product, that this side of the product is rock solid, because the last thing that you want to do is, here's another example from Centerbase about how on a matter level you can set codes, and actually this is Cosmolex. You can set the code and you can restrict task codes and set the format. You better make sure that this system that you're migrating to is rock solid and that you have looked at examples. You've seen the features in action. Like when I do a time entry, this is an action step screen. Does it force me to use the codes? Because where is a huge time waster? Systems that don't have a task code requirement. And so the poor person that is responsible for reviewing the pre-bills, they're having to edit all of these entries and they don't know what code or activity should be assigned. So we're wasting a significant amount of time internally getting that information correct when our time can be better spent in other areas of the firm. So is it mandatory that if a matter is set, and that is a huge time saver. And then this is an example for those of you that aren't aware, but you never know, corporate clients, they're starting to impose this requirement on firms. This is an example of a leads invoice. Like, this is not something that you would print. It's just, this is the raw electronic data, but it takes all of that data and it puts it into each line and each field that's read electronically by an upload process. And if this is not correct, for those of you that do this, you understand the pain it is to address all of the validation errors. So make sure that in your due diligence, you've fully vetted out those features. And so there's a lot of acronyms or terminology that's floating around. And one of them is like e-billing. And you're like, wait, that's what my vendor calls task-based billing. How does the software vendor describe it? Because you may think e-billing is task-based billing, far from the truth when the vendor defines it something differently. So make sure you understand their terminology and what it means, and that you don't think you're getting something that you're not getting. But it could cover a variety of things. It could be that maybe when you create a bill, that bill is uploaded to a portal that your client has access to. Clio does this very elegantly, that it can just go to a portal. So what's the benefit of that? Well, now I don't have to email it. Now I don't have to print it and mail it. Like, you've just reduced the amount of time that it takes to deliver your invoice, and hopefully that translates into a reduction of payment from your clients. So just understand what the vendor feels or describes their e-billing. But here's an example in Action Step of a client portal, where if you save the invoice there, the client they have access to it immediately, and they can go and open up their invoice and make a payment. So one of the features, though, that we absolutely encourage that you look for is emailing bills. Now, obviously, today your clients are more tech savvy. They don't want to get stuff in the mail. They want things emailed. They want an online review, an easy way to pay their bills. And so a step towards that, and a big change, has been emailing bills. And so it really does help get the bill where it needs to be in a shorter amount of time. And so what are the things that you need to look for when you are considering that? So first of all, your system has to have the ability to, on a matter level, say, does this client get the bill by email? So you have to be able to specify an email address, or maybe multiple email addresses. Maybe, there's a co-counsel, or maybe, you need to send it to multiple parties. Does my system allow that I can put in multiple email addresses? And then further, icing on the cake would be to have, can I customize the email language? So an email template. And if so, is that something that I can change on a matter-by-matter basis? So if you look at the bottom graphic, that is Action Step, and there's actually an email template drop-down, right? And so you can have different language. And here's an example of the email. So when you go to send that email, this is that standard, but you can, on a matter level, have different, like maybe one attorney would like to have their email message different than another. Or maybe for the type of case that it is, you need to have different. So that's important. And it really, I think, goes to a quicker adoption rate internally. I mean, obviously, maybe if you do elder law, those features are not important. That's another excellent example of, you know what, emailing bills is not, we're just not going to do it because that client base doesn't do that. So again, something to consider, but it's really where a lot of firms are moving to. Online payments. And so, what does this mean? So it could mean a couple of things. Some firms accept PayPal, right? That clients can pay their bill. Some firms accept credit cards. And so when you're reviewing features, if you give it, I always say it's like the Staples easy button. If you give your clients an easy way to pay your bill, click of a button, I accept credit cards. I know that I pay everything with my Hilton Honors American Express because I want to get those points. And I need to have an easy way to make that payment. And that's where this is moving. And so, when we talk about credit card payments, is it integrated with the software? Can I give my clients a button that when they click, it pays the bill and it goes into my system. Both Action Step and Centerbase have that. And the industry standard is LawPay, and Centerbase does integrate with LawPay, and so does Clio. I mean, Clio does it as well. So here's an example of the Centerbase. When they get the web copy, I say pay with card, and I click it, and I'm able to enter in my information. Now, some firms, if you don't accept maybe LawPay, but on your website, you have a URL that you want to direct clients to that site that they can enter in. Maybe your bank has set up a special ACH payment page, right? And you can just drive people to that page. Here is an example where you send these bills out via PDF, and that here in blue is a hyperlink, and that's nothing more than a URL, www.yourlawfirm.com, that lives behind that URL, that when the client clicks on that URL, it just magically takes them to your homepage. Enter your payment here. So there's a couple of levels. How can you easily drive clients to make the payment? And then second is, icing on the cake, is that integrated to your system so you don't have to type the payment in against the bill? So a couple of things to consider. Integrated system is expense tracking. So I already shown you when you're writing checks, can you link it to your file, so you're affecting the bank balance and you're also allocating it. But can it do soft costs? Like this is an example of Centerbase with photocopies. Like, can I track, maybe it's mileage, maybe I want to have something that has a value, a quantity value according to the type of expense. So maybe at mileage, when we use the code mileage, it'll do 58 cents, and then I can put in 242 miles and it just does the math for me. So can it capture those types of expenses? And again, just a repeat of the screenshot, integrated check writing and allocating it to your matter. And then timers. Like, if we don't enter our time, we don't give people an easy way to do that. They're not going to do it contemporaneously. And so what kind of timer examples do you have? So here's Centerbase with a screenshot of, like, if I'm a user, I can go to my timesheet calendar. I can see each day of the week where I've entered time. I've got an easy screen to enter in my time right there. And at the bottom, right, I've got a list of all the time entries that I've entered. And then if I'm using a timer, I can see a column that says timers, and I've actually got one running that's active right there, and I can start a timer. So what tools do we have to allow our users to contemporaneously capture their time and better? This is an example of an action step timer. I can have multiple timers, and I can turn one on and turn one off at any time, and then just save it. And then what about bill templates? A lot of times your bill is a communication of how the case is going. And does your system allow for some customization? Can you add a logo? Can you turn things on and turn things off? How customizable is it? Am I locked into a certain layout because you only offer one or two layouts? Can I use you to help me? Can I pay a developer fee maybe to come up with some more customized layouts for the firm? So I find all the time that sometimes objections or heated discussions, if you will, are the bill templates. Like, it needs to look this way. And a lot of times there's attorneys that have a different preference. So I tell firms, don't die on the mountain of bill templates. If there are other features that are rock solid and are going to kill it for your firm, and we have a bill template that is, well, you know what, again, it's designed to convey the information. If we have, who cares if we have Arial 10-point font or Tahoma? I mean, let's not die on the font mountain. But so just though, make sure that what you need at a minimum, the information that you want to convey, how much money is in trust, is it transferred, is accommodated by these templates. And so mobility. Does it have an app? Which all of these cloud programs do. Some of the terrestrial ones, you may rely on another vendor, like iTimekeep. So, this again is it on my phone? Is it on my iPad? What does it look like? What can I do? Is it only Apple? Is it uh, uh, the other one, Samsung, those types of devices? And what are the limitations? Like, do I only enter time, or can I get to my matters? Can I enter time from those? Again, making it easy to do the work when you're away from the office. And then, if you're choosing to not go with a fully integrated system, okay, I have to link to QuickBooks or Xero. Which one is best for me? And I already had the discussion about, redundancies in data entry, duplicative, so I'm not going to rehash that. But then you need to decide, well, okay, does your system link with one, and which one does it link with? And what kind of data does it transfer back and forth? Is it bi-directional? Is it a one-way push? Is it automatic? Or do I have to intentionally send information over? A lot of things to consider if you're not going to go with an integrated system. And what about bank and credit card transactions? How fantastic is it that I can set up in a system that I say, go look at my bank account online feed? And this is something that is huge in QuickBooks that a lot of people ask me when they're leaving, when they're considering going to a case management, time billing, and accounting system. Can I pull in my credit card transactions so I can just say match or enter it so I'm not rekeying in information? Centerbase has that. It's fantastic. You can do credit cards, you can do bank accounts, Cosmolex has it, but this is just an example of my bank account where it's pulling in all the transactions that were in the bank account, and it tells me what's unmatched. I can go and match it, or is it already in the system? So I hope that you found this useful and gives you some food for thought when your firm is considering a change, and maybe a more modern approach to the way that you're handling what you need in your firm. I'm going to turn it back over to Karen so she can wrap this up.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. With all the time billing and accounting options, your insights are really helpful. Thank you so much. Great job. And thanks to all of you for attending. If you were intrigued by Cindy's presentation today, but would like to discuss it further, I encourage you to take advantage of our free 30-minute consultation. This gives you a chance to dig deeper and explore those time billing and accounting solutions even more, or ask any question you might have. Just reply to my follow-up email and I'll take care of the rest. And don't forget, we have more great webinars coming soon. Our Word Styles Power Hour is next week, followed by How to Find What You Need Fast shortly after that. Just head over to affinityconsulting.com/webinars and take a look at what's coming up. Watch for my follow-up email shortly with the recording and slide deck from today's session. And please do share your feedback with us on the survey that follows. Thank you, and join us again soon.